Hello, good morning children. How are you all of you? I hope we got nearly 20 days break during these exams, but I am happy that all of you have done very well in the exams. I hope this cooperation you will continue during these classes, online classes also. Now, I am going to explain class 8th history 4th chapter tribals, Dikus and the vision of a golden age. And one more thing children, I want to tell you, many of you are asking again and again notes. Some missed, of course they are in the PDF form also, I have given also, then also you are asking, some of them missed, like that you are saying. Already in our school books materials are there, better you go and buy books. Because social you are having NCERT folder, MCQs, shorts, very shorts, long answers, all these miscellaneous, everything will be there. And so it is very lengthy notes. That's why better you buy books, study materials from the school. And you have one more facility, door delivery is also available there. I have given numbers also to you. Okay. Now let's come to the lesson. In 1895, a man named Birsa was seen roaming the forests and villages of Chota Nagpur in Jharkhand. So, in 1895, a man named Birsa, okay, Birsa, he was seen in Chota Nagpur in Jharkhand state, okay, Jharkhand, Chota Nagpur, Birsa was seen. People said he had miraculous powers. He could cure all diseases and multiply grain. So, people were saying that he had more miracle powers, very powers, that he can cure all diseases of the people. People, whatever they are suffering with diseases, he can cure, and he can multiply the grains of the people, the crops, whatever the grains they are producing, he can double the grains. Who can double the grains? Birsa can double the grains. Birsa himself declared that God had appointed him to save his people from trouble, free them from the slavery of Dikus. Okay, so Birsa here, he declared himself that God had sent him, God had appointed him to save the people from the troubles, and at the same time free them from the slavery of Dikus. Dikus means here outsiders. Dikus means outsiders. The people. See, suppose you are the people of Tenali or Nandivelugu or something else, Pedravur or like that. But if a person comes from outside, he will be called as Diku. Okay, he will be called as Diku. So, in the tribal people, if the person is new to that place, that particular place, then they will be called as outsiders, Dikus. Okay, Dikus. It's a plural form, Diku. Okay. So, from the slavery of the Dikus, that means what? Why this slavery? Why this word they have used? Now, we will see in the lesson. Soon, thousands began following Birsa, believing that he was Bhagwan and had come to solve all their problems. So, soon, thousands of people, they started believing him that he can cure all diseases, he can solve all the problems of the people. Birsa was born in a family of Mundas. Here, Munda, it's a tribal. Okay, Mundas. It's a subcaste, it's a tribal caste. Okay. Mundas. Okay, so Birsa was born in Mundas family. A tribal group that lived in Chota Nagpur. These Mundas, they used to live in Chota Nagpur. They used to live in Chota Nagpur. Okay, Chota Nagpur. But his followers included other tribals of the region, Santals and Orans. In the previous classes you have learned that tribal people, they won't adopt others' traditions and customs. Yes or not? Tribals have their own rules and regulations. But here, not only Mundas, Santals and Orans, that means other tribal groups also started believing Birsa. Okay. All of them in different ways were unhappy with the changes they were experiencing and the problems they were facing under British rule. So, all these people who Mundas, Santals and Orans, all of them were very unhappy. Why? Because the Britishers methods, how they were ruling their areas, with all those methods, these people were very unhappy. Their familiar ways of life seemed to be disappearing. Their livelihoods were under threat, and their religion appeared to be in danger. What was the problem? What is the problem they are facing? See here. Their familiar ways, that means usual ways, their normal ways, usual ways, they were, the normal ways of life was disappearing. That means they have to do whatever the Britishers were saying, and their livelihoods were under threat. Their livelihoods, for their livelihood, they may be hunting, collecting fruits, and all these, and these farming, all these things were in the threat, and their religion appeared to be in danger. Their traditions and customs were under danger, appear to be in danger. What problems did Birsa set out to resolve? So, these are all the problems they were facing. Who were facing? These tribal people were facing. So, what problems did Birsa set out? Set out means start to resolve. That means to solve. Who were the outsiders, being referred to as Dikus? Here, who were the outsiders? And how did they enslave the people of the region? Why? How they are enslaving these people? How they are getting control on these tribal people? Okay, let's see. What was happening to the tribal people under the British? How did their lives change? These are some of the questions you will read about in this chapter. So, after listening all these were the questions you will get in this chapter. These questions, answers you will get from this chapter. What was the chapter? Tribals, Dikus, and the vision of a golden age. Okay, let's see. You have read about tribal societies last year. In the 7th class also you have learnt tribal societies. Most tribes had customs and rituals that were very different from those laid down by Brahmanas. So, this Varna system and the customs and belief, traditions, they were laid by Brahmanas, they were separate. And these tribal people, their customs and beliefs, their traditions, their total changing, their livelihood, that's why lifestyle was completely different to Brahmana societies. These societies also did not have the sharp social divisions that were characteristic of caste societies. Okay, these societies also did not have the sharp social divisions. Already you know, in Brahmanas Varna system, we have the people Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Sudras, like that. But here in tribal societies, not that much different. These societies also did not have the sharp social divisions that were characteristic of caste societies. All those who belonged to the same tribe thought of themselves as sharing common ties of kinship. Here, in one particular community, all were equal. They are all sharing equal, the same earth, same water, same land, like that. However, this did not mean that there were no social and economic differences within tribes. Of course, maybe they are drinking the same water, same land they are sharing, same the forest they are sharing. But there are also some differences in the tribal societies. How did tribal groups live? So, before knowing the differences, let's see actually how they used to live. Okay, how did tribal groups live? How did tribal groups live? Okay, let's learn about this first of all. By the 19th century, tribal people in different parts of India were involved in a variety of activities. So, by the early 19th century, these tribal people, they were involved in many activities. For their livelihood, they were engaged in different activities. Some were jhum cultivators. Jhum cultivators. What is this jhum cultivation? Let's see. Some of them practiced jhum cultivation, that is shifting cultivation. Here, Jhum cultivation means shifting. Jhum, shifting cultivation. What is this shifting cultivation? Okay, let's see. This was done on small patches of land, mostly in forests. The cultivators cut the tree tops to allow sunlight to reach the ground and burn the vegetation on the land to clear it for cultivation. So, what the people will do in the forest, okay, if trees are like this, okay, what they will do, they will cut all these branches, okay. By cutting these branches, what they will do, sunlight will fall and the ground will be cleared and it will get dried up, okay. And afterwards they will cut all these trees and they will burn all the trees and the wood and burn the vegetation on the land to clear it for cultivation. So for cultivation they will cut down and they will burn and they will clear. And what they will do afterwards, they spread the ash from the firing which contain potash to fertilize the soil. So after burning, what will remain here? Ash will remain. They will mix that ash with this soil. Why they will mix that? That ash contains potash. Okay, this is this makes the soil very fertile. For that purpose, they will mix this ash in the soil. They used the axe to cut trees and the hoe to scratch the soil in order to prepare it for cultivation. As usual, how we are cultivating the land, like that they also did. They broadcast the seeds, that is, scattered the seeds on the field instead of plowing the land and sowing the seeds. What they will do? They will scatter. They will broadcast the seeds and scatter the seeds that they will throw. Okay, instead of plowing the land and sowing the seeds. What we will do here in our fields, we will do, if it is like this, they will plow the land like this, and here one by one like this, we will keep the seeds. But what these tribal people will, they will scatter the seeds. That means spreading. Once the crop was ready and harvested, they moved to another field. So in this field, if the crop is ready, they will cut, they will harvest, and they will take the grain and they will go to other place. They will go to other place for cultivation. A field that had been cultivated once was left fallow for several years. So afterwards, the next year they won't do cultivation here. They will shift to another land, and this field will be left fallowed for several years. Shifting cultivators were found in the hilly and forested tracts of northeast and central India. The lives of these tribal people depended on free movement within forests and on being able to use the land arid forests for growing their crops. That is the only way they could practice shifting cultivation. So all these tribal people, like this shifting cultivation, they used to do on hilly tracts and forested areas of the northeast and central India. Northeastern states we have now, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, Mizoram, like in those states. And central India also, that means Madhya Pradesh and this Jharkhand, Odisha, like that. The lives of these tribal people depended on free movement within forests. So all the forests, they believe that their own homes. So wherever the land is suitable, they use it to do cultivation there. So this is about shifting cultivators. Next, some people were hunters and gatherers. Some tribal people were hunters and gatherers. In Morphe regions, tribal groups lived by hunting animal and gathering forest produce. They saw forests as essential for survival. The Khons were such a community living in the forests of Orissa. In the forests of Orissa, the tribal people, they were called as Khons. Okay, they were called as Khons. Here in Jharkhand they were Mundas, Santals and Orans. And here in Odisha, okay, now it's Odisha, no? So these people were Khons. These tribal people were Khons. These Khons were hunters and gatherers. Okay, gatherers means collecting fruits and roots. They regularly went out on collective hunts and then divided the meat amongst themselves. So a particular group of people, they will go for hunting, and whatever the animal they kill, they will share the meat equally among that group. They ate fruits and roots collected from the forest and cooked food with the oil they extracted from the seeds of the sal and mahua. Here, sal and mahua, two types of trees were there. Okay, sal and mahua. So, they will collect seeds from these trees. So, what they will do? They will extract oil from these seeds. Okay, they will extract oil from these sal and mahua seeds. So, with this oil, they will cook food. With this oil, they cook food. Okay. They collected the seeds of sal and mahua, and by extracting oil from the seeds, they use that oil for cooking food. Okay, next. They used many forest shrubs and herbs for medicinal purposes and sold forest produce in the local markets. So, what they will do? They use many forest shrubs and herbs for medicinal purposes. The forest produce, whatever they are collecting, they sell in the markets. And whatever they want from the market, they will exchange with the things they are having. The local weavers and leather workers turned to the Khons when they needed supplies of kusum and palash flowers to color their clothes and leather from leather. Okay, so what these people they have done, they have these weavers and leather makers, leather things maker, they approached these gatherers so that they can get these colors. That means here palash and kusum, two types of flowers. From those flowers they will get color. For the collection of those flowers, these weavers and leather makers, they approached these hunters and gatherers. Okay, the remaining part I will explain in the next video. I hope you understood, children. Thank you. Have a nice day.